Hi, and welcome to the SoCal Yearbook Gal Education Series designed to inspire, encourage, support, and make your life easier. This week we are talking about how to do a heat check in your class to make sure that you have a safe and loving environment in your yearbook class and to make sure that everybody is doing all right, especially right around this, the deadline season for your first deadline. Before we get into that though, I'd like to talk about the yearbook production plan, what to do and when. And under people and connections, that's where it talks about doing the heat check, which we'll talk about in a second. But under organization and planning, it says put a club picture plan in place, recruit club sponsors by floating dates and asking for club rosters. If you are not taking club pictures right now, know that there's a bunch of team sports that some of them have already finished, but you need to make sure that those pictures are taken preferably at the beginning of the season as soon as they get their jerseys and everything that they need so you can take those team pictures. But don't forget to take those pictures earlier rather than later. And you can also recruit club sponsors at that same time. Under editorial and photo, make sure that you work on completing those fall sports spreads, ad spreads, and underclassmen spreads. Anything that is done right now, now's the time to work on it. Like there's nothing holding us up at this point on some of these spreads. They're already done. The events are done. The pictures are done. So time to start designing those. Also design spreads and plan coverage for senior portrait pages. We talked about this a little bit last week about doing some, maybe putting some fun things in the portrait pages. You could do this in the senior portraits as well. You could do a module down at the bottom or on the side or something like that just kind of draws attention to the senior pages. That's kind of fun. Under ad sales, book and ad sales and promotion, if you are doing business ads, now's a really good time to invoice your advertisers. So don't hold on to those invoices until the end of the year. Their ads are going into the book. You're placing those ads in your book. Now's the time to invoice your advertisers. And then under staff development, make students accountable for daily work with a yearbook time log. Some of the yearbook programs actually have that information in it, but depending on how you grade your class, it might be important to say like, hey, we're expecting that you work on your spreads for this amount of time per week. And they can write in a time log and have it signed off if they have to do it for homework, stuff like that, if you want to add that to your grading policy. So back to doing a heat check. So this is sometimes, especially around deadline season, and especially like final deadline season, but sometimes even at that first deadline, because the first deadlines tend to be pretty big. During your first deadlines, oftentimes we do your portrait pages and we do all that, like the bulk of the book gets done at the first deadline. But sometimes it can be a little stressful for your editors. It can be stressful for returning students, especially when they're also helping train your new students. And so it's good sometimes to do a little bit of a heat check just to make sure that everybody's okay. You can sense it frequently if you're looking for it. But basically, and what I used to notice in my yearbook classes is back when I was doing a high school yearbook in Idaho, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I had this yearbook, this editor, and she took such great pride in the yearbook, just an incredible human, incredible editor, and she was meticulous, but she had very, very high standards for her staff. And I remember we always knew, her name's Emily, we always knew when Emily was getting irritated because she had, and I talked about this in an earlier video, but it's so funny, her hand would, like if she's just like starting to get irritated, her hand would do this and it would be right about this level. And then the more upset she get, the higher that hand would get. And so she'd be like, listen, I'm really frustrated because we have this staff manual and everything's planned out and people are not following the staff manual the way it's supposed to be and our book doesn't look cohesive. And then sometimes we're like, I don't know how many times I've told people to do this and I don't know how I'm going to be able to keep my cool. And then finally, like right before she's about ready to storm out the door, she's just like, I've had it up to here. I've talked to them 1,000 times. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's just like, we could always tell when Emily's like down here, we're like, okay, cool. Like guys, we need to, we gotta do this. When it was right here, I was like, uh-oh. And then right here, I was like, oh no, Emily's about ready to walk. So anyway, it was just, she's so great at what she does. And she just took such pride in that book. And some people are easier to read than others. Sometimes people just get really, really quiet, but it's good to do that heat check and make sure that, especially when things start getting like a little bit stressful, maybe just say like, hey guys, we can afford a day. Like put it into your schedule, your deadline schedule, to just have a day where you're like, dude, today we are not doing anything. We're going to sit around, we're going to do board games, and we're going to regroup because we work best when we're not stressed. And so give them an opportunity, have a little class party, do something like that. And just, I mean, kids love food, but do something to try and ease the stress a little bit and keep an eye out for it, because kids are oftentimes really verbal or communicative about their feelings and emotions and stuff like that. So when you start noticing that there's a little bit of bickering going on, nip it in the bud early, because remember, the best yearbook class is one that is a very safe and loving environment, and it allows students to thrive and be happy and be leaders. So that's what we're all going for. All right, good luck. Do those heat checks. Take care.